Part 64. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 633. Regarding Lu Feng's words, Zhao Yun, Guoqia and others knew about the existence of the transfer hall, so they were naturally calm, while Luo Cheng, Qin Kaiyang and other people in the Sui and Tang dynasties felt very incredible. But this was not a big deal, because next, Lu Feng completely dispelled their doubts, and at the same time, he also allowed them to witness what magic means are. In the following time, Su Mogong, Luo Cheng, Qin Kaiyang, Li Yuanba and other civil servants and generals in the Sui and Tang dynasties entered the transfer hall to transfer their jobs. After more than half a day of job transfer, Li Yuanba changed his job and became a rank -6 general. He was also the only rank -6 general in the Shenlong Empire of the Two Worlds. Luo Cheng became a 5th-level general, Qin Kaiyang and Yu Qigong became a 4th-level general, Chen Yaojin became a 3rd-level general, and Su Mogong, Du Ruhui and Fang Xianling became 4th-level counselors. One of the more special people is Li Jing. Because his force is not too high, he is only comparable to a first-rate 3rd-level general. However, his ability is not reflected by simple force. It is more about marching, formation and commanding abilities. After completing the transfer of these generals and counselors, Lu Feng spent a large amount of transfer points and transferred 1.5 million 4th-level soldiers for the army to conquer. The next day, after the 5 armies gathered their troops and horses, they set off in their respective directions. Although the Chinese people have never set foot in countries such as Rome and Egypt in this world, because of Zhao Yun and Lu Bu, people have already fought all over the world in the Eastern Han Dynasty, so they know the distance fairly well. After adding the territory of the Tang Dynasty, almost all small countries and tribes can regard it as an enemy, so there is no need to negotiate and just start a war. In this way, 3 months later, Zhang Liao and Yu Qigong destroyed all the Japanese pirates on the Japanese island, and captured Goguryeo, the Korean peninsula and other places in this world before returning to Chang'an to resume their duties. After half a year of fighting, the troops of Li Jing, Lu Buletin and Huang Zhong completed their missions and returned to Chang'an. 3 months later, Guoqia also led everyone to pacify all the Roman, Ottoman and other empires in Western Europe and returned to Chang'an. At this point, the entire world of the Sui and Tang dynasties, like the world of the Eastern Han Dynasty, had become the territory of the Dragon Kingdom. The people of the Central Plains and all the soldiers were delighted with this battle. They thought that making the Han people the masters of the world was just empty talk that Lu Feng said to boost morale. Unexpectedly, just 1 year later, this wish became a reality. After all the soldiers returned to the court, Lu Feng once again summoned the officials in the palace. This time, everyone knew that it was time to reward them based on their merits. Unlike the previous unification of the Central Plains, which was almost exclusively based on direct lineage soldiers from the Dragon Kingdom, this time it can be said that all civil servants and generals, including the original Tang Dynasty soldiers, participated, so everyone was very excited about it. People such as Qin Kaiyang, Li Jing, Fang Xianling, and Du Ruhui have completely convinced Lu Feng and are wholeheartedly proud of being officials of the Dragon Kingdom. At least, before that, they still looked down upon Lu Feng, thinking that surrendering to the Dragon Kingdom was just a helpless move. If Li Shimin was still alive, he would definitely be able to fight Lu Feng on the same level. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download the Philu Novel app. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 634. However, after more than half a year of fighting, and everyone's personal improvement in strength, they finally knew that Lu Feng's success was not because his opponent was too weak. In fact, even if Li Shimin and Li Jiancheng join forces, they are definitely no match for Lu Feng. He is really too powerful, and not only his force, but his vision, political acumen, and economic control are far beyond anything in history. The emperor can compare. Not long after, with Lu Feng's arrival, the award ceremony began. For Zhao Yun and other 5 dragon generals and Zhang Liao and other 5 tiger legions, Lu Feng kept their official positions unchanged. After all, these 2 teams of 10 people can be said to have the highest official positions among the Dragon Kingdom generals, even higher than the generals and chariots. Official positions such as generals have more real power. Moreover, these people are also Lu Feng's complete direct troops. The relationship between them and Lu Feng is not simply a superior and subordinate relationship. Lu Feng and them have a relationship like comrades and brothers, which is more important than any reward. Guojia and Sun Yu are already the prime ministers of the Dragon Empire in various worlds. Jia and 11's He are just the prime ministers of the Dragon Kingdom in the Eastern Han Dynasty, while Guojia and Sun Yu add up all the worlds. It is also the highest official position among civil servants. As for Wei Zheng and Su Mogong, they were appointed as the left and right prime ministers in the Sui and Tang dynasties. Wei Zheng was in charge of government affairs, Su Mogong was in charge of military affairs, and Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui formed the military machine pavilion. While supervising hundreds of officials, they were also responsible for the appointment and assessment of officials. Of course, in Lu Feng's absence, all important orders were jointly decided by the Junjij and the left and right prime ministers. The left and right prime ministers plus the Junjij had a total of 4 seals, and they would only take effect if they were all sealed. As for the awards of military etika copyright S, Li Yuanqing jointly established the Hammer Battalion, with Li Yuanba as the commander-in-chief, Pei Yuanqing as the deputy commander-in-chief, and Li Jing as the military god of the Dragon Kingdom. When necessary, the dragon team can be dispatched by him. Of course, this position of military god of the Dragon Kingdom can be said to have been created by Lu Feng. He was extremely majestic, as if he were the head of the military etika copyright S in the world, but he had no real power in the peaceful and prosperous times. Of course, once there is a war, he can mobilize all the troops and horses of the Dragon Kingdom, and he seems to be the only controller of the military power of the Dragon Kingdom besides Lu Feng. Such an official position is enough to show that Lu Feng attaches great importance to Li Jing. As for Qin Kaiyan, Chen Yaojin, Luo Cheng, Wang Bodang, and Yu Qigong, they were appointed as the 5 Biao cavalry, with Qin Kaiyan as the leader, each in charge of 20,000 soldiers and horses. After paying tribute to all the meritorious ministers, Lu Feng said, "Now, this world has completely become the Dragon Kingdom's world. There will no longer be foreign invasions, and the Han people can live a carefree life. In this way, there is nothing to do in this world, and I will return to the Eastern Han Dynasty in a few days." As soon as Lu Feng said these words, the officials below suddenly became confused, and they all tried to persuade Lu Feng not to leave them alone. Seeing this scene, some people may find it interesting. When they were officials of the Tang dynasty, they wanted to eliminate Lu Feng as soon as possible. Now that Lu Feng is leaving, they are struggling to keep him. In fact, we can't blame them. After all, Lu Feng has completely conquered them with his own abilities, giving all the officials a strong sense of belonging to the Dragon Kingdom. Filu reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 635. When Lu Feng saw everyone so excited, he smiled, and said, "After all, I haven't seen the queen and several concubines for a long time. It's time to go back and take a look. By the way, I brought Li Ziyuning and Chang Sun Wujiao incorporated into the harem. But you don't have to worry, I'm just going back for a look, and I may come back at any time." After everyone heard that Lu Feng would come back, they were relieved. Since Wei Zheng, Su Mogong, Fang Xianling, and Du Ruhui are in charge of all matters in this world, and Li Jing is there when necessary, there is naturally nothing to worry about. 3 days later, after Lu Feng taught Wei Zheng and others how to contact him through the transfer hall, he returned to the Eastern Han Dynasty with the 5 dragon generals, the 5 Tiger Legion, Li Ziyuning, Chang Sun Wujiao, Li Yuanba, and Pei Yuanqing. In this world of the Eastern Han Dynasty, Lu Feng included Li Ziyuning and eldest grandson Wujiao into the harem, and named Li Ziyuning concubine Ning and eldest grandson Wujiao as concubine Jing. In this way, after Lu Feng spent half a year in the main world with Lu Xian, Diao Chan, Cai Yan, and other queens and concubines, he finally opened the door to space again and started a new journey. This time, the world Lu Feng chose was the world of the Southern Song Dynasty, because he knew that in this world there was a national hero named Yu Fei who went down in history. Whether it is the heroic spirit of eating the meat of Huns when hungry, laughing and drinking the blood of Xiangnu, or the regret that loyal bones are buried in the Green Mountains, and sycophants are made of innocent officials in the White Iron, they all tell the story of Yu Fei's contribution to the Han people. As a famous general who fought against the Jin dynasty in the Southern Song dynasty, Yu Fei's loyalty to the country did not conflict with Lu Feng's ideal of preventing the Han people from being oppressed by foreigners. It can even be said that Yu Fei was the one Lu Feng admired the most in his previous life because he used his abilities on foreigners and served for the foreigners. The Han people guarded the country and had a higher pursuit and national responsibility than many other generals who went into battle to fight for the world. So when Lu Feng saw the Southern Song dynasty among the options for time travel in space, he chose to come to the Southern Song dynasty without hesitation to save Yu Fei. Of course, after rescuing Yu Fei, the Emperor of Jin who forced Song Jiaozong and Qin Hui to conspire to kill Yu Fei on trumped-up charges was naturally included in the must-kill list. I just don't trademark T know whether the one passing through the space gate is the Southern Song dynasty in real history, or the Southern Song dynasty in Yu Quan's one. Although it sounds like they are all from the Southern Song dynasty, there is still a big gap between the two, such as Gao Chong, Lu Wenlong, Yu Yun, Yang Zixing, and others. Among Yu Fei, these followers of Yu Fei all have extremely high combat effectiveness. Moreover, the Yu family army in Yu Quan's biography definitely has the combat effectiveness of at least a 6th level unit, and both Yu Fei's followers and the Yu family army can follow Lu Feng back to the main world of the Eastern Han Dynasty. Since each world traveled through the space gate has its own mission relative to that world, for example, the mission in the world of Sui and Tang dynasties was to unify the world just like in the main world, so Lu Feng led an army of more than 20,000, and finally summoned an army of 100,000. But this time traveling to the world of the Southern Song dynasty, there were only 2 tasks given by the transfer hall. One was to rescue Yu Fei, and the other was to kill the Emperor of Jin. Because the task was relatively simple, Lu Feng did not bring many people with him. There were only 3 generals, Dian Wei, Li Yuanba, and Pei Yuanqing. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download the Filu novel app. A. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 636. The army also only transferred 50 people each from the Red Blood Dragon Cavalry and the Dragon Warrior Soldier, for a total of 104 people. At this time, the world of the Southern Song Dynasty was in the early stages of the Southern Song Dynasty. The strength of the Jin Kingdom was at its peak. It repeatedly invaded the Song Dynasty from the south, and rebels led by Yang Yao rebelled against the Song Dynasty. Amid such internal and external troubles, the Song Empire was already in turmoil. Even if Zhao Go, Emperor Jiaozong of the Song Dynasty, moved the capital to Yingtianfu in Nanjing, it would still be difficult to stop the Jin soldiers from marching south. Since Zhao Quangayan, Emperor Taizhu of the Song Dynasty, took over the Yellow Robe, there have been 9 emperors so far. After more than 160 years, the Song Dynasty may perish at any time. Under such circumstances, Yu Fei was ordered to lead the army to resist the invasion of the kingdom of Jin. Along the way, he carried out his mother's instructions and the mighty China with a back that was as broad as the Central Plains. At this time, Yu Fei, who had always been unstoppable, finally encountered a powerful obstacle outside Tanzhou city. The Song dynasty rebel general Yang Yao was confronting Yu Fei. He set up a 5-square formation in front of the formation, hoping to severely damage the Yu family's army. At the same time, Yu Fei was explaining the 5-square formation to his soldiers in his Chinese army tent. This 5-square formation, also called the 5-square formation, is arranged according to the 5 directions of east, west, south, north, center, the 10 heavenly stems and the 5 elements. The military formations. The soldiers in the 5 arrays are located in different directions, have different arrangements, and wear different colors of clothes. The 5 arrays are, Eastern Jiyamua, whose color is green, South Bingdinghuo, whose color is red, Central Wu, the color of Jitu is yellow, the color of Zhengxing gold in the west is white, and the color of Rongui water in the north is black. This formation is very powerful. If you don't know how to break it and rush into it, it may cause great harm to our army. It will cause harm, so we must march strictly according to the formation, with. Yu Fei was explaining the method of breaking the formation to his soldiers, when suddenly a messenger hurried into the camp and said to Yu Fei, "Report to the marshal, our army," and an army of about 100 people suddenly appeared out of thin air between the rebel camps. Since these hundreds of people appeared, they have directly entered the 5-square formation, and judging from their posture, it seems that they do not take the 5-square formation seriously. The 5-square formations were already crumbling under his impact. Is there such a magical thing? Yu Fei was quite surprised after hearing the words of the messenger. You know, this 5-square formation is said to be the top battle formation method passed down by the sages of the Warring States period. Once it is activated, even if an army of 10,000 people rush into it, if they can't do it, they would also be strangled directly in the formation. How could a mere 100 people break the formation? So Yu Fei didn't think much, and hurriedly left the camp with the other soldiers in a curious mood, and came to a slope outside the camp to watch. But saw that there were indeed more than 100 people rushing into the formation. The leader of the more than 100 people looked like a young general, wearing a black gold armor and holding a dark green spear more than 1 foot long. Sitting on a tall horse is quite a majestic horse. Although this general is young, his force is absolutely amazing. Every time the spear is swung, it will inevitably take away the lives of several enemies, but Yang Yao's soldiers in the formation cannot get close at all. Behind this person are 2 teenagers holding double hammers. The 2 teenagers look young, but the pair of war hammers in their hands look very heavy. Every time they swing, they can kill a lot of people. Feel remind you, 3 things to do when reading, collect, recommend, and share. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 637. Behind these 2 people is a man who is 9 feet tall, broad-shouldered, and round, like a black iron tower. He holds a pair of iron halberds and swings them like flying, constantly harvesting the lives of enemy troops. Further back, there were about 50 infantry and cavalry each. Yu Fei looked at the 50 cavalry and infantry. Although each of them was not as powerful as the leading 4, they were definitely well trained, and their cooperation with each other was perfect. The infantry are heavy infantry, each wearing 3 layers of heavy armor, holding a halberd in one hand and a shield in the other. While blocking the slashing attacks of the 5-square formation soldiers, they thrust out the weapons in their hands with all their strength, constantly shooting in front of them. Of enemies killed. As for the 50 cavalry, they were wearing strange-looking crimson armor. Each of them held a spear in their hand that was the same color as their armor, and they were constantly assassinating the enemy. These people are said to have appeared out of thin air. Although there are only about 100 of them, they are extremely brave and look like no ordinary people. No one in the entire 5-square formation is their enemy. Seeing the hundreds of soldiers who were almost chopping melons and slicing vegetables into the 5-square formations to the point of collapse, both Yu Fei and his generals, and the soldiers of the Yu family army were stunned for a while. There are even many people who keep looking at Yu Yun and Li Yuanba with their eyes. Just because their weapons are almost exactly the same, with the same golden urn hammer, it is inevitable that people will doubt that there is something between them. Relation. Not to mention ordinary soldiers of the Yu family army, even Yu Fei couldn't help but ask Yu Yun Yun'er, do you know the young man who wields the golden hammer in the 5-square formation? After hearing Yu Fei's question, Yu Yun also asked. Answered with doubts on his face. Although Yu Fei and Yu Yun are father and son, Fei has always had very strict requirements for Yu Yun. It can be said that no reward for meritorious deeds, severe punishment for minor delinquencies. In the army, the two of them are not considered father and son. Yu Yun and the soldiers also called Yu Fei marshal. Yu Fei originally wanted to think that Yu Yun knew the other party's details, so as to judge whether the hundreds of people were enemies or friends, but since Yu Yun didn't know, he didn't ask any more. However, although Yu Fei stopped asking questions, he was still analyzing it carefully in his mind. Finally, he thought that since the other party was also coming towards the 5-square formation, no matter what the other party's purpose was, it was not the same as his defeat of Yang Yao. Conflict. In this case, based on the principle that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, maybe I can follow them into the battle. So, Yu Fei once again took a look at the 5-square formation that had been transformed beyond recognition by the more than 100 people. He felt that there was no need for any plan to break the formation, so he waved his hand charge with the whole army. He rushed into the 5-square formation. Among them were naturally Lu Feng, Li Yuanba, Dian Wei, and others who had just traveled through time. They had just crossed over and happened to be on the battlefield where Yu Fei and Yang Yao were facing each other. Lu Feng just glanced at the formation and determined that this formation was Yang Yao's 5-square formation. Lu Feng, who had a certain understanding of Yu Quanchuan and the history of the Southern Song dynasty, naturally knew that the 5-square formation set up by Yang Yao was just to stump Yu Fei. And since I wanted to save Yu Fei, why not be a favor and help break the 5-square formations? To read the underlined version of the novel, please download the Philu Novel app. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 638. In this way, it can be regarded as a good relationship with Yu Fei. Of course, Lu Feng also knew that even if he didn't mind his own business, with Yu Fei's understanding of the art of war, it would not be difficult to crack the 5-square formations, but it would just require a waste of time and troops. However, when Lu Feng broke through the 5-square formation, he didn't just find the right eye and break the formation bit by bit like Yu Fei did, but he was preparing to break through it directly with brute force. After all, he didn't know how to break the formation, but with his supreme tiger general strength, coupled with Li Yuanba, the infinite warrior, Pei Yuanqing, the half-step infinite warrior, and Dian Wei, the peerless general, it was not difficult to break through the formation. Besides, there were 100 dragon warriors and red-blooded dragon knights. Lu Feng had enough strength to ignore the rules of this formation and directly open the table. Lita Euro trademark S not mention Lu Fenga Euro trademark S thoughts for the time being, but the fighting power of these more than 100 people is really strong. The 5-square formations have already been smashed to pieces by Lu Feng and others. At this time, the Yu family army came to kill them without any effort. The power of blowing dust. Seeing this, Yang Yao and others knew that they could no longer resist, so they turned around and ran away, not caring about the army left behind. Naturally, these armies were killed by the combined forces of Yu Fei and Lu Feng. Afterwards, Yu Fei stepped forward, raised his hands to Lu Feng and said, "Just now you was thinking about the method of breaking the formation with his generals, but they couldn't figure it out for a long time. Fortunately, a general came to help. Yu was very grateful, but he didn't know that the general named Taboo. Although Yu Fei led troops to fight flexibly and changeably, he was a little slow in dealing with politics. When he saw that Lu Feng's armor was better than his own, he thought that Lu Feng was an army sent by the imperial court, so he took the initiative to ask. When Lu Feng heard Yu Fei's words, he also looked up at Qing Shi's famous anti-gold general. He had a strong admiration for Yu Fei. As a national hero, Yu Fei wanted to protect the people of the Song dynasty from being invaded by the Jin kingdom, so he fought desperately against him, but in the end he suffered misfortune at the hands of the Han Emperor to whom he was loyal. Regarding this, Lu Feng looked at the famous Marshal Yu, feeling both sad and a lot of anger in his heart. However angry Lu Feng was in his heart, he had great respect for famous generals and heroes like Yu Fei. He quickly returned and said, "Lu Feng, Lu Tiankai." Then, Lu Feng looked at the man behind Yu Fei who was holding a pair of drums, urns, and golden hammers. The young general asked with a smile, "This young general is the son of Marshal Yu Yun, Yu Yun." Although Yu Fei was very strict with Yu Yun, he was still his father after all. When he heard that the other party actually knew his son's name, he felt in his heart. He also said quite proudly, "Yes, it's Kwanzaa. Yunur, why don't you come over quickly to meet General Lu?" Yu Yun did not dare to disobey his father's order and hurried forward to greet Lu Feng. However, after the ceremony, Yu Yun but he didn't look at Lu Feng again, but kept his eyes fixed on Li Yuanba behind Lu Feng. At the same time, Li Yuanba also saw Yu Yun, and also noticed that the weapons in the other person's hands were also a pair of drums, urns, and golden hammers. He was suddenly curious whether the other party's hammers were as heavy as his own. Due to Yu Fei's presence, Yu Yun could only be careful with his words and actions and did not dare to say more. However, Li Yuanba didn't care about anything and couldn't hide what was in his heart. He hurriedly said to Yu Yun, "Boy, you have this hammer, how much?" Feeler reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 639. Yu Yun originally saw that the weapons used by Li Yuanba were exactly the same as those he used. In addition to being curious, he inevitably had a good impression of Li Yuanba. But when he heard the other person call him a kid, he immediately became unhappy. Logically speaking, Yu Yun was just 13 years old at this time, and Li Yuanba was already 15. He was indeed 2 years older than Li Yuanba, so it was okay for him to be called a boy by Li Yuanba. But as a major general of the Yu family army, he was called a brat by a man less than 2 years older than him in front of so many soldiers of the Yu family army. This was such a loss of face. So Yu Yun was so angry that he didn't answer, but stared at a pair of bull's eyes and asked, "How much does your hammer weigh?" After Li Yuanba passed through the job transfer hall, his intelligence had recovered somewhat, although he was still it has not reached the level that matches his age, but it has made great progress, and now it is equivalent to the intelligence of a 10-year-old child. At this time, he saw that the other party's weapons were exactly the same as his own, and he wanted to step forward to make friends, but he wanted to take advantage of his age to take advantage of it, so he called the other party a brat, but he did not expect that the other party would not be happy because of this. So he grinned and said, "I didn't expect you to have a bad temper. Since you don't want to say it, let's try using different weapons to fight." Yu Yun is not a person who is afraid of trouble. He has always been strictly required by his father, but the competitive character in the young man's bones has never been eliminated. He nodded on the spot and said, "Okay, just fight, I'm afraid you won't succeed." After Yu Yun said this, the people behind Yu Fei started to let's make some noise together and let them have a fight, so that they can have something to watch. Yu Fei was relatively conservative in his thinking and instinctively wanted to stop him, so he said, Yun'er, don't mess around. Swords have no eyes. What should you do if you hurt each other? Yu Yun is still competitive, but his harshness towards his father seems to have faded. As if he had a psychological shadow, he immediately shrank his head and stepped back, but there was still something in his eyes. When Lu Feng saw it, he cupped his hands and said to Yu Fei, Marshal Yu, although there are many military generals in the world, there are only a few who use war hammers as weapons. There are not many, not to mention that the two weapons are exactly the same. This is really rare. How about letting them compete and learn from each other? Yu Fei thought about it and felt that this was indeed the case. Moreover, he had just seen this young general move with ease in the 5-square formation and killed many enemy soldiers. He should be a general with good martial arts. In this case, there is no need to be afraid. Yun'er hurt the other party, and if the other party wins, it will just let this kid know that there are people outside the world, and there is a sky outside the world. So Yu Fei nodded and said, okay, then you can just have a simple competition, but you must pay attention to it. Don't hurt your harmony. After receiving Yu Fei's order, Yu Yun was quite excited and hurriedly exchanged his weapons with Li Yuanba. However, he was surprised to find that the two drum and urn golden hammers not only looked exactly the same in appearance, but also had the same weight. This point Li Yuanba was very surprised. After all, this was the first time he saw someone using a weapon that was as heavy as his own. He was immediately excited and even forgot about Pei Yuanqing. In fact, Li Yuanba and Yu Yun's drum urn the golden hammer is originally the same pair. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download the Fila Novel app, Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 640. In other words, Yu Yun's weapon belonged to Li Yuanba before. After the death of Li Yuanba in this world, it somehow ended up in Yu Yun's hands. Of course, this is just the origin of the drum, urn, and golden hammer in the southern Song dynasty world. As for Li Yuanba's pair, he claimed to be a gift from heaven, and he did not die like in the novel, so he was naturally brought to the Song dynasty by Lu Feng, so there were two pairs of identical drums and gold urns. Hammer. After learning the weight of the opponent's weapon, Li Yuanba and Yu Yun rushed towards each other while wielding the drum, urn and golden hammer in their hands. Yu Yun was able to use Li Yuanba's weapon, which was enough to show that his strength was definitely not weak. Therefore, in this battle, Yu Yun wanted to strike first and took advantage of the momentum of his horse to slam the drum, urn, and golden hammer in his hand towards Li Yuanba. Yu Fei knew how powerful Yu Yun was. If it were a competition of strength, several adults would not be his match. So when he saw that Yu Yun did not follow his wishes, Yu Fei was angry in his heart, but he was helpless. The young general under General Lu was killed by Yu Yun with a hammer. Although it was said to be a competition between two people, if there was really something wrong, General Zhao would not let it go. If this is the case, what should I do when faced with Lu Feng who just helped me? But when Yu Fei saw the calm smile on Lu Feng's face, he felt relieved for some reason. What Yu Fei doesn't know is that Li Yuanba is the #1 military general in all the romances from ancient times to the present, except for the immortals and Taoists who conferred the title of God. His strength is absolutely terrifying, and his cultivation is rare in the world. There is no need to worry about him at all. And besides Lu Feng, who else had Li Yuanba really climbed over? Facing Yu Yun's blow, Li Yuanba grinned and swung the hammer at him. Boom! There was an explosion-like sound, which not only made everyone's ears hurt, except for Lu Feng, Pei Yuanqing, and Dian Wei who stood motionless, the rest, whether they were Lu Feng's Red Blood Dragon cavalry and Dragon Warrior soldiers, or Yu Fei he and his Yujiajin were all shaken by the explosive blow and almost fell down. As the parties involved, Li Yuanba and Yu Yun both felt the huge force on each other, and their hearts were filled with joy and their eyes lit up. swung the hammer and hit it again. With the experience just now, everyone took the initiative to cover their ears with their hands to prevent their ears from hurting again. The two of them hit each other more than 10 times in a row, but Yu Yun couldn't bear it in the end. He was the first to stop and admit defeat. Yu Fei and Yu Jiajin were shocked by this. They thought that with Yu Yun's power, not to mention invincible, at least he could easily defeat his peers, but they didn't expect that the opponent was so powerful. Standing next to Lu Peiyu and Qing next to Feng looked at Yu Yun with a depressed face, and his heart was full of jealousy. After all, he could equal Li Yuanba in terms of strength at such a young age. If he was trained well, he didn't know if he could defeat Li Yuanba, but at least he could surpass himself. It is very possible. If this is the case, then wouldn't he be unable to serve as the deputy commander of the Hammer Battalion? No matter what Pei Yuanqing and others thought, Li Yuanba smiled at Yu Yun and said, "Boy, you have good strength. My skills in using the war hammer are still a bit lacking, so you might as well become my disciple. Feeler reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share, comma. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 641. After Li Yuanba finished speaking, Lu Feng raised his head and looked at him with a surprised expression. He did not expect that Li Yuanba, a 15-year-old kid, wanted to take on a disciple. However, Yu Yun didn't care how old Li Yuanba was. On the contrary, when he heard that Li Yuanba was going to accept him as his disciple, his eyes lit up and he wished he could become his disciple on the spot, for fear that the other party would regret it. Logically speaking, as the son of Yu Fei and a famous general, Yu Yun wanted to learn martial arts even if he did not learn from his father. With Yu Fei's reputation, it would not be difficult to find a famous teacher. But the problem is that there are very few people in this world who use hammers as weapons, and Yu Yun is born with supernatural power. Ordinary generals who use hammers cannot defeat him, so how can he be his master? Li Yuanba was the first person Yu Yun had seen who was more powerful than himself, and the weapons of the two were exactly the same. Naturally, there was an indescribable closeness to Yu Yun. However, the matter of becoming a master at this time was a big deal. After all, it was not as simple as the time before Lu Feng traveled through school, where students could just enroll in school and accept the teachings from their teachers. As the saying goes, once a teacher, always a father. A master is equivalent to half a father. And Li Yuanba looks to be 2 or 3 years older than Yu Yun. If he becomes his disciple, wouldn't he be the same generation as Yu Fei? Therefore, no matter how excited Yu Yun was, he did not dare to make a decision in private. Instead, he looked at Yu Fei expectantly, waiting for Yu Fei's consent. When Yu Fei heard that Li Yuanba wanted to accept Yu Yun as his disciple, and Yu Yun also looked at him with a longing expression, he immediately smiled and said the young general can like Quan Zi and accept him as his disciple. It is Zi's blessing. Yun'er, you this silly boy hastened to become a disciple and watched his father do it. It is said that a son is better than his father. Yu Fei knew Yu Yun very well. He knew very well that his son was born with great strength, but it was a pity that no one could teach him how to use this power correctly. At this time, since the young man in front of him is older than Yun'er, and both of them use sledgehammers, it can be seen from the previous duel that he has a good grasp of the use of strength and hammering skills, so he is naturally the best. Someone suitable to guide Yu Yun. After hearing what Yu Fei said, Yu Yun was overjoyed. He threw the pair of golden urn hammers in his hands on the ground, bowed his head and said, "Master, please accept my disciple Yu Yun's bow." Li Yuanba laughed out loud when he saw this. With his mouth almost grinning, he reached up to his ears and casually picked up the 2 drums, urns, and golden hammers on the ground, and handed them to Yu Yun's hands. At the same time, Li Yuanba imitated Lu Feng's usual tone of speaking to Ma Chao, patted Yu Yun on the shoulder and said, "Haha, good boy, if you follow me from now on, I will never let you down. I will teach you all my hammering skills. Here you go, as long as you practice diligently, you can at least become the fourth best general in the world." Listening to Li Yuanba's previous words, Yu Yun was naturally excited, but at the end, he asked with some doubts, "Master, why are you the best general in the world?" Fourth. After hearing Yu Yun's question, Li Yuanba pointed at Lu Feng and said seriously, "Of course the number one in the world is my brother-in-law. I am the number two in the world, and there is also the third general Lu Buledin of the Dragon Kingdom. You are naturally the fourth." Underscore. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download the Philu Novel app. A. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 642. Li Yuanba's intelligence had improved at this time, and he knew that Lu Feng wanted to conceal his identity, so he did not use the original title of brother-in-law, Your Majesty, for Lu Feng, but directly called him brother-in-law. After listening to Li Yuanba's words, Yu Yun didn't pay much attention to the name or official position he mentioned. He was just a little unconvinced. Why should I only be ranked fourth? In the future, I must learn martial arts from my master and strive for third place. Location. As for the top two positions, he has no intention of challenging them. After all, the second place is his master. No matter how hard he practices, it is impossible to surpass his master. And first, Yu Yun is not a fool. Even Li Yuanba thinks he is inferior and can only settle for second place. How can he have the confidence to defeat Lu Feng and become first? Yu Yun listened to Li Yuanba's words and secretly made up his mind to work hard to practice martial arts and strive to become the third best in the world, but Yu Fei was attracted by a word in Li Yuanba's words. General of the Dragon Kingdom, this official position seems to represent some special force that does not belong to the Song dynasty or the Jin Kingdom. Could it be that in addition to Yang Yao, there are other rebel forces that have secretly established a political power? However, at this time, since Lu Feng and Lu Tiankai did not show any malice, and they had just defeated Yang Yao's five-party formation with 100 people, at least they did not seem to be enemies, so Yu Fei just frowned and said nothing. Later, Yu Fei learned that Lu Feng and others had no place to stay, so he took the initiative to invite them to rest in Tanzhou City. On the way, Lu Feng asked Yu Fei if there was a general named Gao Chong beside him, but he received a negative reply from Yu Fei. Lu Feng was inevitably a little regretful about this. This Gao Yuquan was Yu Fei's number one general. It was just that when they were robbing the Jin army's food and grass, they picked up 11 iron slides of the Jin army. Unfortunately, when they picked up the 12th one, they were overturned to the ground because of the weakness of their mounts and were killed by the iron slides. It was really a pity. After returning to Tanzhou City, Lu Feng and Yu Fei had a short discussion and decided to form a gold-killing team with Li Yuanba, Pei Yuanqing, Dian Wei, hundreds of dragon warriors, red-blooded dragon knights, and Yu Yun who had just arrived. Sneak into the capital of Jin Kingdom and go to Beijing. If the gold-killing team formed by Lu Feng were placed in later generations, their name would definitely be the Death Squadron. After all, with the strength of more than 100 people, they wanted to enter the capital of the Jin Kingdom and kill the Emperor of the Jin Kingdom. In the eyes of ordinary people, death makes no difference. However, for Lu Feng, he had a reason to go. After all, when he came to the southern Song dynasty, in addition to rescuing Yu Fei, he also had an important task, which was to kill the Emperor of Jin. Lu Feng's move to form a gold-killing team was undoubtedly very crazy in the eyes of Yu Fei and Yu Jiajin, but besides being crazy, it was also enough to make everyone's blood boil. After all, they were all generals, and their years of military service had given them a passion. Coupled with their hatred for the kingdom of Jin, they both respected and admired the decisions of Lu Feng and others. And Yu Yun is one of them. In addition, he has just accepted Li Yuanba as his master. The master has something to do and the disciple has to obey him. The master has gone to Shangjing to take risks. How could he, a disciple, not follow him? So he decisively joined the money-killing team. Feeler reminds you, 3 things about reading: collect, recommend, and share.